Hi, everybody. My name is Ember Kelley, and I am the Director of Religious Education here at the Fourth Universalist Society. I use she and her pronouns, and I'm so excited to get to sit down with you today for this adult educational video for the month of October in the year 2021. What a year this year has been. And I'm really excited that for this year in our religious education, for both kids and adults, we're engaging with the Soul Matters curriculum. And so what they do is they give us a variety of themes each month. And this month's theme is cultivating relationship, which just seems like a really interesting topic. And since it seemed a little bit weird to be talking about cultivating relationship alone to a screen, I invited a very special guest. Ben, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, thanks, Ember. My name is Ben Heaney. I use he, him pronouns. I'm in my second year at Union Theological Seminary, pursuing my Master's of Divinity in Interreligious Engagement. And this year, I have the wonderful opportunity to be the Field Ed student at Fourth Universalist. And it's been great to meet those of you who I have, and I'm really looking forward to meeting more of you.
So as we were preparing, we were talking a little bit about how an internship is almost kind of a relationship. I think back to the internships that I did through my seminary years. So many, 3 whole years ago was my end of seminary. So long ago. It's a type of relationship though that you're really building with the community.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
and so I imagine, like, especially as it's been such a strange year for us, like coming out of our purely online, coming into in person, how's that experience been for you coming on as the intern this year?
Yeah, it's been really exciting. My first day at Fourth U was the homecoming service, and that was my first time meeting anybody in person. I'd had several conversations with Skylar via Zoom, but it was my first time meeting anybody, and it was really great to be there. And I was, at the front door greeting, and I got to meet like a whole bunch of the team who does that. And it's felt really special to be part of the community as everything kind of gets going again and people figure out what this community can be for them in this new more open version of life that we're coming back to. But it's not 100% going back to anything. It's also, there's a lot of new stuff to figure out. I think a lot of people have discovered some in some sense some like deeper priorities during the pandemic, and done some really hard thinking about what they want out of their communities and out of their spiritual and religious life. So it's a really exciting time to be here, and I feel really fortunate.
And we're excited to have you. I want to make a quick plug that Ben and I actually are in the process of talking about planning out and hopefully launching in January some Soul Matters based small groups for the adults in our congregation. And so keep your eyes open for that. There'll be more information coming as we get it all locked in. And we're really excited about that, to give people a chance to, like you said, people are prioritizing what's important in their life. And I think for a lot of people, that is community relationships. And, small groups is kind of one way to build that. I know for me that I feel like the pandemic really has brought out like community is pretty big. Like I think there was times I thought of myself as a loner, but the pandemic was like, no, actually you like being around people too.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I think we both had at least a somewhat similar experience in coming to New York in the midst of pandemicness, and having to build relationship in the midst of pandemic. Would you like to share a little bit about? I think people have heard and seen my journey joining the congregation online, but what was that like for you, moving to New York and starting seminary in the middle of the pandemic?
Yeah, it was really exciting and nerve-wracking and just like everything all at once. I moved here to Union's campus not only um, with the school sight unseen, because I started planning my first visit right before COVID happened, and then decisions, were rolling out during the spring as, we were like really in the first of those like serious lockdowns. But I had never been to New York before, like ever. I had like clipped a corner of like upstate New York driving to my cousin's wedding, I think. That was my only experience with New York State, much less New York City. So when I moved here in October of 2020, that was my first trip here. And then I flew in with like, everything I could pack into 2 bags. And then I had to quarantine for 2 weeks because that was the protocol at the time. And so I was just like, shut up in my apartment and trying to just make sure that like I was well and safe and not gonna like get anybody else sick. And so eventually I was able to like, venture out after I like finished that time, and it was very quiet. This neighborhood is kind of like academic. There's a bunch of school, you've got like Columbia and a bunch of other institutions in the area. But it was, even for that, it was really, really quiet. And it was sort of eerie because I know the like New York mythology, I've like seen, how it's represented everywhere, and it was so strange, but there was something kind of nice about that. And I feel like I know my neighborhood really well. I feel like this year I get to actually live in New York, but last year I like really lived in Morningside Heights, and it's actually cool to like have a really close connection like to my home base.
No, that makes a lot of sense to me. I think about how like last year when we had some particularly heavy snow, that I was like, okay, well, I don't really feel like at the time prior to that we had been like walking like a mile to Walmart for like the cheapest groceries, and then we're like, what's actually closer to us? Like, what makes a little bit more sense for us, and getting to really know our community and connect with it. And I also the surrealness of New York City during the pandemic also resonates. The first time I went to go meet Skylar in person, we walked through Times Square, and I think that there was maybe like 30 people max in the whole of like the whole big area there, and it was just empty. And I was like, okay, is like, I get it that it's not, this isn't what the experience is like. Usually it's super crowded, and that's part of the experience. And I was just like, this is not quite as exciting as everybody built it to be. It's just a bunch of advertisements.
Times Square was like especially eerie last year. I went through there as well, and it was like, what's going on? Yeah.
No, that was yeah. I think for a while that will probably be the most real, and maybe taking the path over into like the World Trade Center, into the Oculus and everything. And I think there was maybe like 2 other people on like our car, and then like, just a handful of people in the Oculus itself. Like, it was so empty, and I was like, wait, what? Like, I've been warned that like I need to be prepared for like the worst commute, and literally be packed in like a sardine. And we were prepared for that. We're like, okay, like we understand there's a COVID risk that when we go on these things. And then there was just nobody on them. It was, yeah, what a time.
Yeah.
So diving a little bit into this cultivating relationship theme, between like the pandemic, just your life in general, and seminary, what are some big things to you that stand out as like important parts of what it means to like cultivate and build relationships? Like, what does that mean and look like for you in your life?
Yeah. I'm thinking about this in the context of the new relationships that I'm forming here at Union. And we talk a lot about personal and family history because this is such an important part of people's journeys, and you can't understand what people are up to without understanding them on a pretty deep level. People don't come to seminary, especially somewhere like Union, just for like, training to complete tasks. It's a different, and that, you know, and that's not to say that people don't have like personal and deep reasons for pursuing like those kinds of like vocational training. But like everybody, like uniformly at Union, it's part of like some kind of like a search. And people are generally pretty willing to talk about these things because like, you know, everybody's perspective on these things is formed by like the traditions of like all the people who raised them and the people who were like in their neighborhood growing up, and you know, that one book they read during college that really hit them hard, and also, you know, the history of their family coming to or living in the US. That's such an important part of people's formation of their spiritual and religious identities and ideas. And it's really cool to be in a place where people are down to talk about that. So that's one of the really big things. And on the flip side of that, on like the very, I guess, like practical side, just getting back to like eating together with people. I live on a dorm floor, and we're all like fully vaccinated and follow, you know, like test regularly for COVID and everything. And so we feel like we can do community meals most weeks, and that's just like a really nice thing to be able to do. The first time it happened, somebody who lives on the floor just like cooked a giant pot of vegetable soup and invited us into the kitchen, and we all just like sat down and hung out, and it was a really great time. And so, you know, it's like that back and forth of like, you know, the sort of like heady stuff, and also just like remembering not to take ourselves too seriously, and like we're still just like people who want to like share a meal with each other. And I think that those are two key ingredients in any like strong community building.
Food. I'm always a fan of food. But yes, I will also second, don't go to seminary if you're not prepared to dive deep into understanding yourself. I suppose there's some more fundamentalist seminaries where maybe they're going to avoid that part and just like focus on giving you some theology knowledge. But most seminaries, they're gonna. Do you have to do CPE with your program?
Not everybody does, okay, but quite a few people do. Yeah,
that was the one that you know, it wasn't even necessarily the experience of the pastoral care experience that shook me too much, but it was more like when I would do the one-on-one meetings with like the CPE mentor. Gosh, like despite not knowing me that well, he managed to call me out pretty regularly. And I'm like, is it really that obvious, the things I do? And I mean, it's amazing how we can, you know, build relationships and come to understand each other in like such a short or time, even like that. I think a lot of people assume that, you know, relationship building needs just like decades and decades of getting to know each other. But, you know, I think you can build meaningful relationships in strange circumstances that, you know, I think I see one of the beautiful things, like, so I've loved picnic time. You know, speaking of food, the picnic
park after the services.
Yes. That's been my favorite. And I've loved watching these kids who haven't seen each other in a while, or in like the case of my kids, haven't even met the other kids, like getting to meet these kids in person for the first time and get to just that excitement and that energy it's beautiful to see those kind of relationships being built, and it can happen so quickly. You know, I mean, obviously Jesus said it, but I think other religious leaders have said it too. You know, to you must be like the child to enter the kingdom of heaven, sort of thing. That sometimes, you know, kids give us a good example on simplifying a little bit and not making it this huge contest to make friends, but be like Asher when we go to the park. He just like, hi, can you be my friend? It's okay to do that.
The way to do it.
And I think one of the other questions from Soul Matters that really struck with me was thinking about the idea of chosen family. And I think in a seminary experience, like some of your cohort can really be a bit of a chosen family. I know for me as a trans woman, there's been a very real act of finding chosen family. Um, I'm curious what your experience has been like, and do you have any sense of chosen family in your own life, of those friends who become family?
Yeah, absolutely. I got to spend this summer back in my hometown. My parents still live where I grew up, and I still had some really close friends, not just from high school, but from like elementary school. And so, like, I have friends from, I mean, one person who I've known since first grade, and other people who I've known since like third or fifth. And it's like, I mean, they really do feel like my family. And I also have somebody who I really think of as my grandma, and she's not the parent of either of my parents. I've known her forever, um, and I I feel like very close to her, and like I talk to her like almost every week. And yeah, so and I there I've had a lot of other people who are like really important to me as chosen family, and that's a really it's a really great thing to have in your life, because it means that you can also like, if when you become part of their family as well, you get to see a part of the world that you wouldn't get to otherwise. So it's just there's so many things to gain from that.
Right, to get to experience broader and different parts of the community. I was on my Facebook memories yesterday, back in, oh gosh, that would have been like freshman year of college, so 2006, 2007, um, back in the olden days. Um, and I had a speech class, and it was like I don't know, I think it was maybe a persuasive speech. The speech classes, they love this is the type of speech you have to give assignments. And mine was on why it's okay to be average, like that you don't have to be, don't always have to be the best. And that, and part of it was like, the good leaders acknowledge that like everybody's got their own part to play, and that nobody, you don't always have to be the best at everything. And then, but like one of the things as I was rereading it, I'm like, okay, 2006, 2007 me, that was a little strange. But then at the end, it was like this big reflection on like that, in community, that we can come together and understand, like it's so important that we understand each other better, and that we take care of each other, and that we support each other. And I was like, okay, 2007 me, that's a little bit of wisdom right there. I'll take that nugget. I'll take that one. Because we gotta, with chosen family, with close friends, with just any relationship, it's a chance for us to be connecting and caring for each other.
Yeah, yeah, definitely,
Before we wrap it up here, Ben, is there any closing thoughts that you want to share about cultivating relationship, or anything like that? Give you one last chance here.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the small groups. I think that that'll be a great opportunity to learn more about the community at Fourth U, and I think that it'll be a really cool way for people to learn about each other, and I'm really excited to be a part of that.
I'm excited to have you as part. So everybody, keep an eye out. We will have more announcements on that coming soon. And thanks for tuning in for our video today.
Bye, everybody.